sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
Sinners, saints, bitches, whores, skank bitches, ass munchers, pole smokers, finger bingers. How we doing tonight? How we feeling? Are you feeling well? Are you feeling sexy? Are you feeling like a Baptist minister ready to preach to the high heavens and save 1,000 souls? I'm not sure where that came from, but just run with it. I really don't know about all of y'all, but I am freezing my ass off. My asshole is puckered, my balls are shriveled, and I am turning blue. It is so cold, my nipples could cut glass. I am so sick of it. I hate winter. I've always hated winter. Well, except for when I was in elementary school. It was fine then. I hate it. I hate it. I hate the snow on the ground. I hate 3 degrees Fahrenheit. I hate all of this. I really do. And it's making me crazy. Cabin fever really is a thing. You can become so sick of being within your own home that you just want to break free, like Freddie Mercury and Queen. He was a queen, you know. Totally. Bless his heart. May he rest in drag peace, etc., etc., etc. I guess I've offended everybody in the free world just by saying that, haven't I? I was thinking the other day just about being someone from the American South in the Bible Belt and what that means. And I flashed back on this incident that happened when I was in the 7th grade. And you all know that there is a dialect. Virtually every accent comes with its own dialect. Have y'all noticed that? It just seems to be that way. That dialect with culture comes up with words and phrases and things that people say most people don't really understand. Me being a Southern boy with some brains too, I knew the correct words to say in most situations, but if you are surrounded by a bunch of people from the South, you chose to speak the incorrect way just to keep the peace.
Yeehaw!
And anyway, back to what I was talking about. In the 7th grade, there was this incident where, now, I think the whole world has flying insects that can sting. They're creepy as hell, right? Anyway, our teacher noticed the landscaper was trimming this tree, bush, whatever it is, and he called out to my classmate who was the closest to the windows to where the man was, and he just said, "Hey, open the window and tell the gentleman that there's a nest there." And my classmate opened the window and he yells out, "Excuse me, sir, be careful, there's a wasper nest right there." Wasper nest. Anyway, when he closed the window back and turned around, our teacher scolded him. "What did you just say to him? What kind of nest was it?" And he says, "Well, wasper nest." And we're all kind of nodding our head. He goes, "There's no such thing as a wasper nest. It's a wasp, okay? Not wasper, wasp." And I was like, "Well, we can call it wasp, and I agree with you. That's the right answer. But I'm not going to say that in front of my grandma and half the family. I'm going to call it a wasper nest just to keep the peace." It's like when you're around people who speak a certain way, that's going to rub off on you. You're going to wind up talking sort of like them. It would be like an American moving to the UK and spending years there. Eventually, part of that accent is going to rub off on you. Now, I don't think it really works that way necessarily with the Southern accent or even a New York accent, perhaps. But when you're in that group of people, I guess it's that same thing about not wanting to be an outsider, not wanting to stand out, draw attention to yourself. So you wind up speaking like they do. Sort of like, I can remember my grandmother, and she would say, "I'm tarred. I wish you snot-nosed rugrat brats would get out of here so I could go to bed." Tarred. Tarred meant tired. Just saying. When you start talking proper, people think of you as being snooty, aloof, an attitude kind of thing. So when I'm in certain company, I will enunciate the correct words. When I'm in Southern company, I will say all the slang words that we use in place of the real words. Did any of that make any sense? God, I hope so. Jesus. It's really fascinating living in Tennessee when you realize how many different accents there are and how the really deep Southern accent sounds very primitive. It sounds very uneducated. I don't know. Sometimes I want to say it sounds ridiculous, even though I know that a lot of people love to hear that accent. If I'm going to be honest about it, and no offense to anybody, this is just how I feel, that accent makes me cringe. Those very slow, measured words that sound like they're coming out of a mouth with only 3 teeth in there.
He got a little pretty mouth, ain't he?
Some of the people that I work with really do have very thick Southern accents. They can't help it. It's how they were raised, and they're going to die with those accents. One of the managers was asking about a certain person who wasn't in the office, and let's call her Donna. Well, she just says out loud, "I think she's ill," and the manager looks at her and says, "Eel? Yeah, eel, eel." And he's like, "You mean like the creature in the ocean? What are you talking about?" And I just yelled out, "She means ill, sick." And he said, "Well, why can't you say it that way? Why did you have to say eel? Why can't you say even just sick instead of eel?" That caused the whole discussion about the Southern accent and how you can't help it. And that's just the way they speak the words. I remember way back when I was really young, like I was 6 or 7 years old. It was summertime. And one of the best things I remember about summertime was eating fresh watermelon. It's just so good, so sweet and juicy. And I remember this one time, my dad was cutting it open, preparing everybody for a slice. And he always had this habit of cutting out a piece and sampling it, tasting it before we could have a slice ourselves. And this time he took a bite and he was like, oh, we can't eat this. God, it's sour. Sour? Sour? It's like, well, why can't we eat it? Can't we put sugar on it or something? And he was like, "No, I mean sour, 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 sour," as if repeating the word would make me understand. And finally, I understood that he meant spoiled. So I just went, "Oh, you mean spoiled? It's rotten. It's not any good." And he goes, "Yeah, sour." I was like, oh my God. It just made me crazy trying to comprehend what they really meant initially. Even my mom was trying to explain it to me just by repeating the word over and over again. Oh, it was aggravating. Plus, I didn't get any watermelon either. Jesus, that really sucked. It's just one of those things about the Southern dialect that really can make you crazy, especially if you really don't want to be perceived as a hillbilly, a redneck, white trash, whatever you want to call us, country bumpkin. I wonder sometimes for myself, because most of the time I don't think you all hear an accent in my voice. But I wonder if subconsciously I worked on it from that young age so that I didn't sound like a Southern person. And I'll admit, listening to some people speak, that I'm a little bit embarrassed about their wording, their context, I guess. Is that how I would put it? I don't know. I'm not saying that I'm ashamed. I'm just embarrassed sometimes. But you know what? In a way, I do have a right to be a little bit embarrassed, maybe even ashamed. Because if someone can identify a Southern accent, there are legitimate reasons to mock us. If you hear a Southern accent and you think that that person is from the South, from the Bible Belt, you think Bible beater, which I'm not. You think homophobe, which obviously I'm gay. You think anti-woman, anti a lot of things. The accent does come with a version of a scarlet letter. It does reveal, in a way, the behavior, the attitude, the ideology of a lot of people. And so it would be worthwhile for someone who isn't those things to try to not have that kind of accent. Believe it or not, it does come out in how people write. And I'll be the first to admit, just a couple of generations before mine, people didn't go to school for a full 12 years. They didn't get a high school diploma. Most in my family from a couple of generations back barely made it to the third or fourth grade. You learned enough to be able to read and write and understand arithmetic, and that was about it. Kids were born in farm families to work on the farm. They didn't think much about them getting an education or anything. I guess the assumption was that their kids and their kids' kids, every generation would just work on the farm, that the farm would always exist, and that's how everybody would make a living. And it didn't matter if you knew the ways of the world or had a high school diploma, much less a college degree. But of course, that's not how the world works, and it didn't work for my family either. My generation, as far as I know, we all have a high school diploma, and several of us have a college degree. God, I could use some trouser gravy right now.
What the hell?
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
You might be thinking, what does that mean? And I'd have to say, seriously? Trouser gravy? Think about that for just a minute, okay? Jesus Christ. Come on, people, wake up, snap out of it. You're not asleep, are you? I have heard that this podcast does help people go to sleep at night. I'm good with that. As long as you're listening, you're boosting my ratings. I appreciate it. Oh, before I get too far away from complaining about the weather, I found it interesting how around here people will post on social media, Facebook, about how many inches they have on the ground of snow. Like they'll say, we got 4 inches or 5 inches or 6 inches. And everybody's like, wow, that's a lot. And I started thinking, if you were to announce that your dick size was 4 or 5 or 6 inches, people would be saying, well, that's hardly any size at all. Bitches. Size. That will never not be a thing, will it? We are always going to be obsessed over the size of our wing dang doodle. People are going to obsess over what they think the size of our wing dang doodle is. We'll never get away from that, right? We're going to be criticized for it being too small, too thick, too big. I mean, are we going to be like Goldilocks and the Three Bears and we're just doing a sampling to see when we can find the one that's just right? Is that how that's going to work? I just don't know. People tend to scoff at Freud, but he really was onto something. And I know, guys, at the gym, in the locker room, you all are sizing up other guys' dicks. You see guys running around naked, and you're doing a comparison. You're wondering how you do size up. That's definitely a Southern thing, but that's definitely a man thing. That's a weapon that straight women can use against men, mocking their dick size. It's something that gay men use against each other. I can remember once one of the guys that was a really good friend of mine, and I was in like with him. I wanted a relationship. It didn't work out, but he was huge. He had a huge dick. And I remember overhearing someone that he had fucked or something once, and the two guys were talking, and the one guy was like, oh, you've been with him? How was it? I know it's really big. And the guy says, yeah, really big, and he doesn't know how to use it. Either way, you're screwed, okay? I mean, honestly. Then I heard him explain that he was angry with him because my friend expected him to worship his dick, to do all the work. He didn't want to do all the work. So that's why he was critical. I have to hand it to my friend. If you're able to pull that off, get the bottom to do all the work, and you get to just lay there and get hard and get off, damn. I'm reminded of Margaret Cho in one of her stand-up routines where she talks about being a bottom. And she says, I don't know if I'm a bottom because I like it or I'm just lazy. Oh, by the way, Margaret Cho has got a recurring role on the television show Will Trent. And I did a double take. I didn't recognize her at first. She's, she's getting older, and they are making the character look older, the one that she plays on the show. I think that's a thing that's a shock to all of us, especially with our favorite pop stars.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you some breaking news.
Sorry about that, sinners and saints, but I had to interrupt this podcast. I am so sorry. Did you hear what I just said? I should have said our. I said er. So yeah, I guess I do have a little bit of a southern accent. Sorry about that. Can you believe I said that? Jesus Christ. Instead of our. God. We always remember them in their heyday. And then if you suddenly see them at an awards show or just paparazzi catches them and they look nothing like what you remember when they were the big superstar, it can be quite jarring, can it? We always look at our idols, the ones that we respect and admire, our pop stars, our actors and actresses. We always leave them, I guess, in a vacuum. We think that they don't age and they will always be timeless. And I guess it's just a reminder that even the ones we love the most are human. But you know it's got to affect them as well. It has to affect them in a way that we can't really appreciate. You are a superstar. You were on the A-list. Everybody wanted to interview you. Everybody wanted to be you. You were able to scoff at the paparazzi and criticize people. And then one day you wake up and the paparazzi isn't around. Your records don't sell as many copies as it used to. You don't get played on the radio like you used to. Do any of y'all listen to the actual radio, FM or AM radio anymore? Does anybody? I think it really is a fading segment of the entertainment industry. But I'm getting off base here. And I remember my one big embarrassment when it came to the Southern dialect. I think it was in the 7th grade as well. You know how sometimes you're so certain when your teacher asks a question and you know the answer, you're so positive, and then you proudly answer that question and it is totally wrong and you feel like a damn fool. This was one of these things where it might have been sort of like an English class, but our teacher was asking us, like, for example, the one that I screwed up, what do you carry your groceries in from the grocery store? And there were like 4 options. And I was raising my hands and I said, a poke. And the teacher looked at me so funny and said, no, that's not it. Because I bit into the Southern dialect. In the South, we would call a shopping bag a poke. Just like when you had a soda, a Coke or a Pepsi, back in the day, we called them dopes. And I think the dope thing came from the legend that Coca-Cola, when it was originally distributed and sold, that it had cocaine in the recipe. And I believe it did. And that's where dope came from. People just started calling it a dope. We did. I just remember that language. And I think up north, you all call them a pop, right? It's a pop. I just call them a soda now. I don't know that it matters, but it's a fact. Use it as you wish. And let's not forget, there are entire genres of gay porn that are dedicated to white trash and hillbilly sex. I almost will guarantee you, if you are a porn watcher, you've watched some of it. I'll watch it. There are some good clips, and there are some that are just a hoot and a half. And I laugh my ass off when they try to fake a Southern accent. There's a scene between Christian Wilde and Lance Hart, and Lord have mercy, it's hot. But his Southern accent, that drawl, is just, it's fun. Okay, it's a good thing he's hot, but I digress. When I'm sitting here thinking about the 7th grade, that was maybe just when I was really starting to become aware of sexuality a little bit, because I'd been on the track team since I was in the 4th grade, and I changed clothes with the other boys for track and things like that. But I don't think it was until like the 7th grade when I started noticing certain boys and feeling an attraction to them. All of us changing clothes in our tidy whities and seeing some of them that are more developed, and remembering one of the guys who was definitely maturing faster than the rest of us, and seeing the hair under his arms and some hair forming on his chest and down around his navel, drifting down toward the promised land. I've never had any qualms about doing it with a hillbilly, a Southern guy with a Southern accent, because typically, I don't know if you all do it, but I'm not really a big talker during sex. I don't really do a lot of that. And I guess I am loud as far as the expression of ecstasy when you finally hit climax. I'm nowhere near one of my ex-boyfriends. He was so loud that I would sometimes slap my hand across his mouth because I was afraid the neighbors upstairs in my apartment building would hear him and they would think that I'm killing him. He wasn't really a hillbilly, but he was trash. I think that's what I liked about him, somewhat. Of course, I can't get away from talking about the Southern dialect, accents, and culture without talking about food and drinks. I know it's one of the most unique things about the South, but it's quite common here. If you're at a restaurant and you're ordering your meal and you might order for your drink a sweet tea. Tea in the South comes both sweet and unsweetened. And it is the only place, apparently, on the entire planet that you can get sweet tea at a restaurant. And it just depends on the restaurant. Some restaurants sweeten their tea really heavily and others a little bit lighter. But it's just one of the little quirks of the South that we don't even think about it. I have been in a restaurant in California and accidentally ordered a sweet tea and got a look like, what? And I was like, oh God, no, this is California. I was like, I'm so sorry, just tea, please. You have sugar on the table? I'll use that. And she just nodded at me and wrote it down. And then when she was walking away, I could see her shaking her head. And I know she was thinking, damn, we have a hillbilly here in the restaurant. How did he escape past the Mason-Dixon line? Oh, and you got to admit, our food is some of the best in the world, even though a lot of it is fried. I've actually changed my own eating habits compared to what it was like when I was a kid. One of our biggest treats, well, first of all, almost always my grandmother, every day, she'd be making cornbread. Whenever we ate it all, she would go right away and make another batch of cornbread. And one of her favorite things to do was to crumble it up into a large glass while it was still warm and pour buttermilk over it. Fill the glass with cornbread and buttermilk. Now, most of us young'uns despise the taste of buttermilk. We love buttermilk cornbread, but not the taste of buttermilk. So we would have our cornbread with regular milk, and we called it bread and milk. And it was some of the best tasting stuff you'd ever have. But to be honest, I haven't had milk in so long that I don't even know what it tastes like anymore. It was a choice. Most mammals don't drink milk as adults, okay? So put that in your pipe and smoke it. My favorite Southern food item is slaw. I have loved slaw from the time I could eat regular foods. I loved my grandmother's slaw, and she was the only person I've ever known to use tomatoes in her slaw. Slaw is a staple in most Southern households. I absolutely could eat it with everything, and I pretty much do when I can find it. And I think there is slaw in other places too around the country, but I don't think it's anything compared to what it's like in the South. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. And, slaw is cabbage and a few extra things with, it can be pickled, vinegar, mayonnaise, and sugar. It just depends on the recipe. There are multiple kinds, but if you're going to serve me slaw, it better be a little bit sweet. And I gotta say, the deli slaw at the Piggly Wiggly is some of the best I've ever eaten. Just an FYI. But I'll tell you this, you Yankees, you love the Southern meat. You love a good blowjob, hand job, or a good old deep ass poking from Southern Dick. You better not deny it. I'll tell on you. I promise. Of course I know that there are plenty of stereotypes about Southern people. There are plenty of stereotypes about every type of person, every culture, every race, color, creed, etc., etc., etc. And we all know that stereotypes, they do exist because there are elements of truth about them. And of course there's the old sayings about dating your cousin or having sex with your cousin, etc., etc., etc. That happens, I know, in the South, but it happens everywhere else too. I mean, honestly, the royal family in Britain, isn't that kind of like a thing with them, marrying cousins? But for them, because they're quote-unquote royal blood, it's okay, but everybody else, you're just trash? I would just argue that both sides are trash if I'm judging, and that's okay too. It is. It's okay to be trash. More power to you. I've been called trash many times, and I probably am. I probably should take myself out to the curb and have my ass hauled away. Unless somebody, Henry Cavill, wants to haul my ass. I'm not sure what that means, but just run with it. If I put the name Henry Cavill next to something, you know it's sexual. In most cases. Most of the time. Really. I don't think it's a matter of trying to pretend like the stereotypes don't exist. It's just being able to acknowledge them in the context that they do exist. Not all of us are banging our cousins. Not all of us are missing half our teeth. Not all of us live in the bayous and tell you that you've got a pretty mouth. Most of us take a bath virtually every day. I guess what I'm getting at there is that you can know what those stereotypes are, just understand that not every person in the South or wherever will fall under that stereotype. Not all of us fit the same model, the same brand. We're not the same by any means. And you all should know that, bitches. Come on. Come on. Look at me. I mean, I told you once before, there was only one cousin that I would really want to do, and I've got to take that back. There are actually two. One of them was a ginger. So, well, he still is. He's not a was. But I just haven't seen him in, let's just say, decades. So, I don't know. As far as I know, both cousins have got beer bellies and look like slobs. I know the one does. He went from 190 muscle-bound stud to 300-pound lard ass. And that's his right. And yes, I was judging there, and I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is too. I guess that's another thing about Southerners. You all just assume that we're all overweight and have the diabetes, don't you? Understood. I mean, we are farm people, and our previous generations, they were working their asses off, working 10 to 12 to 14 hours a day on a farm. You're going to be healthier from all that exercise and work, and you can eat whatever you want to. Now, we still eat what we want to. We're just not working the 12, 14, 16 hours on the farm every day. That makes a big difference. We all know that, don't we? I guess it makes you wonder too, like if you watch the movie Deliverance and you know the Ned Beatty scene where he's getting rammed in the woods by the hillbillies. I guess that's the assumption too, that hillbillies will just screw anything because he's making him behave like a pig. Oh God, I didn't want to get into bestiality, but you know, that happens too. It has. There have been cases in the last 20 years in the South of someone being arrested for trying to have carnal relations with an animal, a horse or a goat or a cow, sometimes a pig. Yeah. You know, it sounds like something that would happen at Mar-a-Lago, doesn't it? Yeah, probably so. Well, slap my ass and call me Judy. We are once again at the end of an episode of Alan After Dark. And damn it, I just can't believe how time flies when you're having so much fun. And I guess talking about all of us Southern hillbillies and our primal urges really does ramp up the blood and speed up the time. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Maybe you'll have a beat-off session later on looking at some white trash porn. We can only hope. But as always, remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon.